If there is any great secret of success in life, it lies in the ability to put yourself in the other person's place and to see things from his point of view, as well as your own. Henry Ford. Good evening. My name is Kirsten Bailey, a current criminal justice graduate student here at Liberty University Online. For my final project, I will be discussing the topic of interpersonal communication and how to develop a design that will demonstrate an appreciation for maintaining an accurate awareness of needs and resources while seeking to develop healthy, healing, and holy relationships, as well as personally demonstrating the ability to compose and deliver an oral message with clear and purposeful content and effectively organized. What is an overarching goal? An overarching goal, or OAG, is defined as an ultimate goal, specifically one that both encompasses and culminates a set of related goals. A personal overarching goal for me is to break a cycle that has been continuous in my family for many years, which is choosing not to disassociate myself from family members after a confrontational conversation. For some, this may be possible, for others, impossible. However, for me, impossible is no longer something that can be accepted. My overarching goal is to be a better listener and control the confrontational aspect of my communication skills so that myself and the other parties can come to an understanding together and not live as if the other doesn't exist. Family is something that I strongly value and is a strong influence on an individual's life and behavior. There will be smaller steps that will need to be made in order to achieve what may be seen as the unachievable. When possibilities seem really bad to people, they may talk right up to the edge of the crisis, get frightened, freeze, and then back off to a seemingly safe but anxious place. They don't want to look at what may happen, the worst possible outcome. Refer to Peterson's text, page 160. Peterson would describe my fear of communicating as dealing with worst-case conditions. Communication has not always been easy for me. Growing up, my mother had a very authoritarian, do as I say, children do not speak unless spoken to parenting style. My siblings and I were constantly chastised and punished for speaking out of turn, so I was very much afraid to ever communicate with anyone. So much so that my oldest sister could not take the fear and ran away to live with her father. I myself did not have that courage. I was very intimidated and became a pushover. While others were the aggressor or the dominant one in the conversation, I hardly spoke. And in school, I was constantly picked on and bullied almost daily because of the fact that the other children knew I would not speak up for myself. I was so afraid to speak up for fear of punishment that I did not speak about an ongoing 2-year rape with a family member until much later in my adult years. When I reached the age where I could leave home, I was not able to communicate properly. Only later, after years of counseling and prayer, was I able to come out of my shell and speak out. The years of keeping family business a secret by keeping my mouth shut and other emotional barriers such as witnessing family members and friends not speak with each other and ultimately breaking the family apart weighed heavy on me when it came to confrontational communication. Ironically, I've been told that I'm an excellent speaker, but in other certain areas of communication, my fear takes over and I cower and back down. So for me, creating a goal of being a better confrontational speaker is major. Conflict resolution is more important than conflict management. You don't want to just manage a conflict. You should want to resolve it so people walk away better than when they walked into it. Refer to Carbonell's text on page 88. As described earlier, in most confrontational discussions, when I'm not satisfied with an outcome, I choose to just walk away and not deal with the person any longer. However, this is a negative attribute and an extreme barrier in my family's way of communicating. When it comes to confrontation, if you don't win the argument, then you no longer associate yourself with that person. And in conflict resolutions, it takes two people to be willing to resolve rather than to manage. One barrier that I foresee is that though I may want a resolution, I can't expect it to happen right away, and I have to be able to deal with it no matter what or how passionate I may be about it. I also have to deal with the fact that I may not be loved and accepted by everyone. Other barriers are defense mechanisms that I tend to do to defend my point of view. A third barrier is non-ownership of the problem, but it's on both the receiving and giving end of the person taking all the blame, that person usually being myself. An example of this is a situation that I had with my sister just recently, where I came to her on a problem that I was having, and I explained in a calm tone that what she did hurt me deeply, and because she felt she was right, she yelled and screamed the entire time. Because of this, and due to the fear of losing my sister's relationship, I ended up apologizing to her to end the argument, although I knew she was the one that hurt me. So forfeiture could be another foreseen barrier. However, all of these barriers can be overcome through the correct venues. If the confrontation is seen as one-sided, then I must remember that I need to look at things from the other person's perspective to get a better understanding or a better concept. Burley Allen describes this as the irrational behavior. An irrational statement is a way to tell another person about a problem that you're having with their behavior, but doing so in a non-blaming manner. Refer to Burley Allen's text, page 176. I must also remember not to jump to the defense, owning the part of the problem in the situation. And lastly, by forfeiting and giving up the argument, I can't expect it to just go away. Eventually, whether I want it to or not, it will resurface and I will have to deal with it at some point. Ultimately, the best way to help me deal with these barriers is through power of prayer. Before I know that I'm to have a heavy conversation with a loved one, I ask God for guidance and direction on the best method of conversation, and I let God know that whatever His will, when it comes to the resolution, I must accept it, for it is His will. But how can I eliminate internal and external noise pollution? There is one major form of internal and external noise pollution. Internally, the noise pollution consists of distractions that I may face that block me from a clear communication. For example, thinking of other things, daydreaming, not paying attention. So to eliminate this, I must concentrate on what is being said and not so much as to how I'm going to respond at that particular time that the other person is speaking. Externally, one major area of pollution is bringing outsiders that have nothing to do with the situation in to assist me. So to clear that up, I must be able to hold a conversation without having to bring other people in. By doing this, it will decrease the chances of the other person feeling as if they are attacked, and it would actually open the lines of communication better. My plan of action to make myself a better communicator when it comes to confrontation is to remember some of Peterson's suggestions. As the talker, I must own the problem and share my thoughts and feelings with the other person without accusing, labeling, attacking, or judging. I would like to follow the 3-step method of sharing, negotiating, and then closing. By using this method, I believe that by sharing, each party gets opportunity to give their side, but to make sure that it is done thoroughly so that you can move on to the next step, which is negotiating or compromising the best course of action for both parties to be equally satisfied, so that ultimately it can be closed. When closed, it can be making sure that when you walk away from it, you actually walk away from it and not have to revisit it. This will assure Carbonell's process on walking away from a conflict better than you walked into it. As I said before, to some, this may not seem as if it is a difficult task. For others like myself, it may just be. However, knowing that I now have my own family, I do not want them to carry the same characteristics and traits that I experienced. It may be a struggle, but as Philippians 4:3 says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. John Stewart said it best when he said, conflict is by nature interactive, but it is how I handle that conflict that can really make a difference. Thus far, I've already completed a major goal in speaking on the subject today. I'm Kirsten Bailey, criminal justice graduate student of Liberty University, telling you that nothing is impossible. Be blessed.